So we're continuing the discussion now on validation options, and we're talking about the dialog validate server-side event. The purpose of this event is to validate any data before the after dialog validate event is called. So the after dialog validate event will only be called if the dialog validate server-side event does not raise an error. So let's go back now and take a look quickly back at controls here, where we look at the city field. So the city field we discussed allows you to define validation XBasic, which will check for errors, and if an error message is found, then the validation XBasic will know that the error is associated with the city control and will display the error right next to the city control. Let's just go here and just turn off the rules for the declarative rules. So the difference between validation XBasic is that validation XBasic associates the error directly with the control for which the validation XBasic was defined, but the server-side dialog validate event, when it raises an error, the error is not associated with any particular control on the UX component. It's just a global error. So we need to specify where that error should be displayed. So let's go back to properties here, and we can see that in the validation and error reporting section, there's a property called placeholder for UX component validation error messages, and we're going to go here and choose this placeholder, global update errors. So recall that earlier when we did validation, we added a global placeholder here underneath the image control called global update errors. So what we've just done is said that if the server-side dialog validate event raises an error, we'd like that error message to be displayed here in the location defined by this placeholder. So let's go and run our component now, and actually let's go back and put in a debug1 statement. Oh no, we haven't even defined our validation rules yet. So I'm going to just go here and paste in some code. And so what we're doing here in the validation event is we're saying that if the city field that was submitted is blank, then set the has error property to true and specify this as the error message. So, and then I'm going to go here and put in a debug1 so we can debug into the code. So we'll go now to working preview. We'll go and enter a new customer, and then I'm going to type in some dummy values for all controls excepting city, and then hit the submit button. So you can see that we're now inside the event handler for the server-side dialog validate event handler, and we can see that e.data submitted is blank. If we look at the other values in data submitted, we see that all the other controls are there. So you can see there's address and company name, all of them have the values that we entered, but the city field is blank. So here's our validation code taking place. We're setting the error to true, and then we go ahead and run, and then we can see here that there's our error message, and it's being displayed in the location of the placeholder. So what we've shown in this video is that in addition to the declarative method of defining validation rules, you can also define validation rules using your own XBasic code, which lets you write arbitrarily complex rules, and you can define XBasic validation rules at the individual control level or at the UX component level inside the server-side dialog validate event. Thanks very much.